On the morning of June 13th, 2025, Israel did something the world had been told was impossible. It struck the heart of Iran's nuclear program directly. No proxies, no deniability, no regional buffer. But to understand how Israel got there, you have to understand a doctrine Iran had been building for 30 years. A doctrine called the Ring of Fire. Iran's strategy was elegant. Rather than build a military capable of fighting Israel directly, an unwinnable contest, Iran spent decades constructing a ring of proxies around it. Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, armed with an estimated 150,000 rockets. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Syria, running a land bridge of weapons through the Levant. Iranian-backed Shia militias in Iraq. The Houthis in Yemen, controlling the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The logic was layered deterrence. Any Israeli or American strike on Iran itself would, in theory, set the entire region on fire. Tehran's words. Rockets from Lebanon, drones from Yemen, missiles from Iraq, attacks on shipping lanes, all at once. The doctrine worked. For years, Washington's calculation on Iran was always the same. A direct strike would mean regional war. The proxies were Iran's insurance policy. And then, on October 7th, 2023, that insurance policy went off prematurely. When Hamas launched its assault on Israel on October 7th, killing over 1,200 people and taking 250 hostages, the consensus assumption was that Iran had ordered it. A more careful read suggests something different. Many analysts believe Hamas acted with Iranian knowledge, but without Iran's full coordination. That Hamas, in effect, jumped the gun on Iran's grand strategy. The Ring of Fire was designed to be activated together. Hamas activated one arm of it alone. This is contested. We may never know what was coordinated and what wasn't, but what we can observe is the consequence. Iran's most exposed proxy, the one closest to Israeli territory, was now committed to a war the other proxies weren't yet ready to fight. Israel saw an opening, not just to fight Hamas, but to dismantle the entire ring, layer by layer, before Iran could complete its real strategic ambition, a nuclear weapon. Israel's defense establishment described its emerging strategy as peeling back the layers of protection Iran had stacked around itself. They could not strike Tehran first. That would forfeit American support and trigger exactly the regional war Iran's doctrine was designed to provoke, so they worked outward in. Layer 1, Hamas. 18 months of operations in Gaza systematically dismantled its military structure. Layer 2, Iran's IRGC presence in Syria. Israel had been striking Syria for years, but after October 7th, the tempo increased dramatically. The 2024 collapse of the Assad regime severed the land corridor through Syria entirely, cutting Iran's primary supply route to Hezbollah. Layer 3, Hezbollah. With its supply line severed, Israel launched the September 2024 pager operation, decapitating much of Hezbollah's command in a single day. Then the air campaign. Then the killing of Hassan Nasrallah. By early 2025, Hezbollah was a shell of what it had been. But Layer 4, the Houthis, sustained American and British strikes joined by Israel, degraded Yemen's drone and missile capacity. Layer 5, Shia militias in Iraq. Quieter operations, mostly American. But the pattern was clear. By spring 2025, Iran's outer defenses were gone. The Ring of Fire had been disassembled one ring at a time. Iran itself was newly exposed. And Iran knew it, which is why what happened next, the race, was so urgent on both sides. While Israel was peeling the Ring of Fire, Iran was running a different race entirely. A race against the bomb. Iran's nuclear program had a hard ceiling it had been careful not to cross. 90% uranium enrichment, the threshold for a usable weapon. To cross that line publicly would invite immediate war. So instead, Iran did something more strategic. It stayed under the red line, at 60% enrichment, but massively accelerated production. In October 2023, Iran held 128 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. By June 2025, that stockpile had nearly tripled to 440.9 kilograms. Here's why that matters, and it's counterintuitive. Going from 60% to 90% is not the slow part of building a bomb. Almost all the centrifuge work happens between 0 and 20%. From 60% to 90% takes days, not months. With 128 kilograms, Iran had enough for maybe one bomb. With 440 kilograms, Iran had enough for 9 to 12. The International Atomic Energy Agency calculated that Iran's breakout time, the time needed to produce its first weapons worth of weapons-grade uranium, had collapsed to under a week. But Iran needed more than uranium. It needed somewhere safe to do the final enrichment. Somewhere even the United States couldn't reach. Roughly 145 kilometers south of Fordow, near the existing Natanz nuclear facility, sits a mountain Iranians call kuh-e Gazla. In English, Pickaxe Mountain. Starting around 2020, satellite imagery showed Iran tunneling into this mountain. 4 entrances, each 20 feet wide and 26 feet tall, dug into the eastern and western flanks. Analysis from the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies estimated the new facility was being built at a depth of 80 to 100 meters beneath the surface, somewhere between 260 and 330 feet underground. That's significant for one specific reason. The American GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, the most powerful conventional bunker buster in the US arsenal, can penetrate roughly 60 meters of earth before detonating. Against hard rock, much less. Pickaxe Mountain was being built specifically to exceed that range, to create a facility that could survive even an American strike, a nuclear safe haven beneath stone. Iran's race wasn't just to enrich more uranium. It was to move the enrichment somewhere it couldn't be touched. On June 13th, 2025, Israel struck. Iran's outer defenses were gone. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Syrian supply line, the Houthis at low ebb. Its inner defenses, the S-300 air defense systems, the radar networks, were now next. The opening strikes targeted Iran's air defense infrastructure. Israeli jets achieved air dominance over Iranian skies within days. Senior IRGC commanders were killed. Iranian retaliatory strikes against Israel were largely intercepted. Iran's regional partners no longer in position to coordinate a multi-front attack. On June 22nd, the United States entered the war directly, striking the deeply buried Fordow facility with GBU-57 bunker busters. Natanz and Isfahan were hit by Israel and the US together. For 12 days, the campaign continued. Then it stopped. Iran's enrichment infrastructure was assessed as severely degraded. The 440-kilogram stockpile of 60% uranium was reportedly buried in the wreckage of underground facilities, physically inaccessible. Iran called it being under the rubble. In the months since, 3 uncertainties have hardened into the new shape of this conflict. First, Pickaxe Mountain was not destroyed. The most heavily fortified facility in Iran's program remains, by most assessments, intact. The Foundation for Defense of Democracies and the Institute for Science and International Security have both warned in 2026 that the site must be neutralized before any conclusion to this war can be considered final. Second, the IAEA, kicked out of Iran in the aftermath of the strikes, cannot physically verify what condition the 440 kilograms of enriched uranium is in. Some 200 kilograms is believed to be in deep tunnels outside Isfahan, The rest is genuinely unaccounted for. Third, the ring of fire that Iran spent 30 years building is gone. But the regime is not. And the uranium, the most enriched stockpile any non-nuclear state has ever held, is still somewhere in Iran. The 12-day war did not end the question of Iranian nuclear weapons. It only postponed it in a way no one knows how to calculate yet.